Welcome back everyone. Workbook Solutions, Julius Caesar, Act 4, Scene 3. This is a long pending video on request. This is video number 2. Dear students, do check the pinned comment section or the description box for video number 1. And kindly subscribe to our channel and also tap the bell icon. Extract 5, it's there on the screen. Question 1, where has Portia gone? Portia is dead. Portia मर चुकी है. Why is Brutus so abrupt as to wave aside the thought of Portia? Second subpart, therefore I have changed the paragraph. Brutus is so abrupt as to wave aside the thought of Portia because he controls his emotions. He does care about her death but keeps it hidden from public view. Two very important points. He keeps his feeling for Portia hidden from public view and he also controls his emotions. What does it show of his nature? He might be adhering means following. He must be adhering to the ancient Roman culture where men were expected to be strong and stoic. Stoicism. How to control your emotions. Men were supposed to be strong. They were supposed to not express their feelings openly, unmoved by things around them. Strong and stoic. And here, Brutus might be following that principle of Roman culture. This is the first probable reason. Moreover, his grief and anxiety might overshadow his grief for Portia. His sadness, his anxiety might overshadow his personal grief. He also seems to prioritize, give importance to duty and public obligations over personal grief. So here, I'll just make a correction. It's personal grief. Hence, his response seems complex. We cannot explain in one single line. His response is complex and this is his nature. This is a quotation which will help you to understand this concept. I think she must die at some time. I have the patience to endure it. This is his strength, his stoicism. First answer is over. I hope you have gone through the first answer. Now, who is Messala? Messala is a friend of Cassius and Brutus. He's a friend, he serves as a messenger, providing information and updates throughout the play. And what is the self-same tenor of which Messala speaks? Brutus received letters at Sardis regarding young Octavius and Mark Antony. Rise against them. Messala received letters of the self-same tenor, that is with the very same news. Self-same tenor, very same news. This is the meaning. What other news does Messala give just after this extract? Octavius, Antony and Lepidus have executed 100 senators by sentences of death and banishment. The textual quotation by prescription and bills of outlawry. This is the other news given by Messala. Dear girls and boys, in this session, I am going to discuss the test and evaluation questions as well. So, stay connected. Don't skip the video. Question 4. What does Brutus come to know from the letters he received about Octavius and Antony? Octavius and Antony are coming against Brutus and Cassius and their troops with a powerful force moving rapidly towards Philippi. Brutus comes to know about this from the letters he received. And where does Brutus plan to meet the enemy? Brutus plans to meet the enemy at Philippi. Brief, to the point answers. How strong had Octavius and Antony made themselves? Octavius and Antony have let their allied troops का क्या मतलब है? Supporters, friend troops, soldiers, sections who have supported them, allied troops, combine to make one single army. All those who are supporting them have joined together to form a single unified army. Number 1, have made sure of support from their friends. Number 2 and number 3, have made the most of their resources. They have planned. Number 4, to face dangers easily. Pre-planning. And by doing these things, they have come down upon them with a mighty power. They now stand for a mighty single unified power. And what was the fate of Cicero? Cicero is dead. He was executed. So this is the end of extract number 5. To the point answers. Extract 6, it's there on the screen. To whom is Brutus giving the arguments in the extract? What is meant by our legions are brimful, our cause is right? To whom is Brutus giving the arguments? Brutus is giving the arguments to Cassius. He is speaking to Cassius. And what is meant by our legions are brimful? The expression our legions are brimful means the armies of Brutus and Cassius are large enough. The armies are fully up to the strength, brimful. Our cause is ripe. The expression our cause is ripe means the time for fighting for their cause is right. It is the appropriate moment now. The expression our cause is ripe means the time for fighting for their cause is right. Question number 2. Give 2 arguments of Brutus to indicate that his military strength is in an advantageous position. Number 1. Number 2. Brutus states that they have taken the initiative by marching to Philippi. Their army is already positioned in a strategic location. The location is perfect. Is going to be already positioned in a strategic location. Perfect location, Philippi. Though the enemy is growing in numbers, day by day they are now at the peak of their strength. Enemy growing day by day, but they have already grown in size and number. In fact, they are at their largest, strongest. They have got as much as they can from those who support them. So these are the good reasons. Brutus says the enemy increaseth every day. State how it increases every day. As the enemy forces march, they gain new supporters and resources from the regions they pass through. For example, the people who live between Sardis and Philippi are loyal to Brutus and Cassius out of fear of force. They are compelled to obey them. The enemy marching past them will be able to grow by recruiting them. The enemy will come at them refreshed, reinforced, and confident. In this way, the enemy increaseth every day by recruiting the people who live between Sardis and Philippi. So they are collecting resources on their way, and they are recruiting people also as they pass through different regions. And here in this case, particularly people who live between Sardis and Philippi. There is a tide in the affairs of men. What comparison is made between the voyage of life and the voyage on sea? This question is important. There is a tide in the state of affairs of men. Just as a ship, this is a comparison. This is important. Learn this from here only. I have explained this in detail. Just as a ship must sail away when there is tide in the sea, so Human beings must utilize an opportunity when it comes. If a ship does not sail away when the tide in the ocean has risen, then the ship would get stuck in shallow waters and in sand. In the same way, if human beings do not make use of an opportunity when it comes, they would have to face loss and disappointment. So the comparison between ship and the state of affairs of men. This is the comparison. Learn from here, ditto. And keep in mind the spelling of opportunity. It's not opportunity. The spelling is opportunity. Very important. I'm waiting. Go through this comparison and learn this. Very important from your examination perspective. So this is question 4. And quickly let me just adjust. It's question 5. According to Brutus, on such a full sea are we now afloat. How is the statement valid? This section is important. According to Brutus, an opportunity has now come their way. They are floating on such a high tide. What is the meaning of this? They are in an advantageous position. They must make use of the movement of the tide when it is in their favor. Either they must utilize it when it is still there, or they must get ready to face the failure of their undertaking. Brutus here misapplies. How is the statement valid? Brutus here misapplies his wisdom to the situation which he is facing. He is making a mistake. This is also important. The speech is important. So learn from here, ditto. I'm giving you time. If you want to take a screenshot, just go ahead and do so. Okay, so very quickly moving on to the next extract. It's there on the screen. Just have a look. To whom does Brutus speak in the extract? Brutus speaks to the ghost of Caesar. What is the setting of the scene during this time? The setting of the scene is at night, number 1. Number 2, in Brutus's tent where he is alone. The atmosphere is eerie. And Brutus has just seen the ghost that appears to him by the light of a flickering taper candle. What is the apparition referred to in the extract? The apparition is the ghost of Caesar. And why is it said to be monstrous? Again, an important question. The expression monstrous apparition means horrible phantom. The sudden appearance, suddenly, of the ghost has shocked and terrified Brutus. Important. He refers to it as an unusual sight and perceives it as a supernatural and ominous figure. Not good omen, it's ill omen. I have highlighted the keywords and expressions. Students, go through this answer as well. Important. What does Brutus wonder about the apparition? This section is also very crucial, so go through it properly. Brutus thinks that it is the weakness of his own eyes, figment of his imagination perhaps, which gives a shape to this horrible phantom. It is advancing towards Brutus. Brutus wonders if it is some god, some angel or some devil. Not clear about the vision. What is the effect of the apparition on Brutus? He is really scared on seeing the ghost. He feels that his blood is running cold. And he also feels that his hair is standing on end. Moments later, he calls out to his attendant and to his boy servant in a state of fright verging on panic. Very, very important. Dear students, don't skip the video. These are reference answers. Take down notes and frame your own answers. Practice a lot. What does the apparition say to Brutus? The ghost says that he is the evil spirit of Brutus. He has come to tell Brutus that he shall see it at Philippi. It also states that he will see it again at Philippi. When Brutus asks if he will see the apparition again, he says, yes. You will meet me again at Philippi. And what is the significance of what the apparition says to Brutus? The The ghost represents the moral crime of Brutus, who murdered Caesar for the political welfare of his country. It is the objectification of Brutus's guilt. His words foreshadow Brutus's fate at the end of the play. Very important. Caesar is dead and Brutus is also going to be dead. The downfall, the death of Brutus is foreshadowed. Who else was present at the scene? Lucius, Varro and Claudius were also present, and did they see the apparition? No, they did not see the apparition. Give a reason. The three men were asleep, but they cried out in terror. When they woke up, they informed Brutus that they were not aware that they cried out. They did not see anything. So, extract number 7. Again, important. And now, test and evaluation. Read the text thoroughly. Read the annotations. Go through reference answers. And you will be ready for your examination. Extract 1. Where are the two speakers? Who are the two speakers? Brutus, Cassius. And they were inside Brutus's tent at Sardis. And what has Brutus just said to make Cassius react so aggressively? According to Brutus, Cassius is condemned to have an itching palm. And Cassius cries out, "I an itching palm." So he has been accused of selling high posts to undeserving people who are not fit to hold those posts. Therefore, Cassius reacts very aggressively. Explain what Brutus means by this corruption. Cassius is corrupt because he has sold his official positions in the army to unworthy men for money. This corruption. Their association with Cassius makes their corruption seem respectable, and so they escape punishment. Chastisement doth therefore hide his head. In this way, you must explain the expressions given. Why has Cassius come to meet Brutus in this scene? He is angry. Cassius is angry with Brutus and has come to argue, give vent to his grievances, grudges against Brutus. What information does Brutus bring against Cassius later in the scene, which is the cause of his bad temper? Cassius is in a bad temper because it is one of his passing moods. His bad temper is inherited from his mother. So, question 5 now. Later in the scene, how does Brutus accuse Cassius further? How does Cassius reply to this? The great Julius Caesar was murdered for the sake of justice. It is not right to sell the high offices and the posts of honor which must be conferred upon the people. This is number 1. Number 2. Cassius refused to pay him any money which Brutus needed to pay the salaries to his troops. Number 3. Cassius is certainly not more competent than Brutus. Number 4. Cassius has an ill temper. He has irritable nature, and Brutus also speaks of his capricious moods. When Caesar was alive, Cassius would not have dared to provoke him. So, in this way, Brutus accuses Cassius further. And initially Cassius is furious, threatens Brutus, but later he speaks in a gentle tone, says that if he had refused him money, he is now willing to give his heart, and soon they reconcile. Extract 2. What good reasons are given by Cassius against their army marching to Philippi? Important. According to Cassius, it would be better if the enemy feels compelled to seek them out. By doing so, the enemy will have to spend a lot of time and effort and would in the way exhaust his soldiers, thus doing much damage to himself. They in the meanwhile will wait without exerting themselves. They will remain fresh and vigorous. Therefore, they must not approach to Philippi. But according to Brutus, they must approach to Philippi. Briefly state the better reasons put forward by Brutus. At the end, whose reasoning proved to be right? Why? The people who live between Sardis and Philippi are only loyal to Brutus and Cassius out of fear of their force. The enemy marching past them will be able to grow by recruiting them. Brutus can block this advantage if they face the enemy at Philippi. And Cassius's reasoning proves to be right. The Battle of Philippi resulted in a decisive victory for the triumvirs over the Republican assassins of Caesar. In this way, Cassius proves to be right in his logic. Give the meaning. Do stand but in a forced affection. The people who live between Sardis and Philippi are compelled to show their friendliness. And the next section, for they have grudged us contribution. Number B, they have been reluctant to give them the supplies they need, the resources they need. And how does this scene create suspicion in the minds of the audience? By showing how Brutus and Cassius disagree about who is right and who is wrong, and how they both accuse the other of wrongdoing. Number 1. Number 2, the frightening supernatural visitation, the ghost of Caesar, foreshadows the tragic downfall of Brutus and other conspirators also. And Brutus's wisdom, his wrong judgment. Brutus's wisdom seems misplaced in this situation, and the troops will have to pay a price for Brutus's wrong judgment. And question number 5, see, it's over here. So, Brutus's wisdom seems misplaced in this situation. And question number 5, what have Brutus and his friends been doing to make themselves unpopular with the local population? They are compelling the local people using force. They have also assassinated Julius Caesar. Cassius is accused of bribery and dishonesty, and his soldiers, his supporters are also officers, other officers are also corrupt. And therefore, local people, they are no longer supporting the conspirators. What danger would the local people likely to pose for the army of Brutus because of this? The enemy will start recruiting people from the local people. In this way, the enemy camp will grow in size. And this is going to be a threat to Brutus and Cassius. This is the end of Act 4, Scene 3.